The stage is set. My name is Daniel Vallis, and welcome to our channel. We are on the threshold between the Shiloh sign and the gathering of his people, and also the start of the rehearsal of the sign of the Son of Man. We are also right at the threshold of the peace and safety warnings, which means that sudden destruction is coming. We find three different prophetic events coming together at a threshold right here in these days ahead. We do not know the day or hour, but we see a day approaching on multiple fronts that the Bible has told us to be looking for and to take heed to, and that we should live in light of Christ's return. In our last video, we looked at the 1-year delay pattern in Scripture of the time period between when warnings, prophetic warnings, between when the signs and the wonders are seen, and the time period of application, the time for preparation, the time for purification, and the time for examining our life and the way we are going, knowing that the event that the sign and the wonders warned about will one day be fulfilled. And so we find ourselves at a time approaching a 1-year mark for the peace and safety warnings, but then it's also on other levels a 1-year time reminding us of what we saw a year ago on other fronts too as well, with the Esther pattern and going to the king's house. There are different things that are coming together at this time, different pictures of the tapestry of redemption that we've been studying and looking at coming together right now. And it is amazing to see how when we look back at the journey that the Lord has brought us on, we can see things we have noticed before, but with new insight and how it applies to where we are now. Things that we were shown quite a while ago, even up to a year ago. But things that come into play now and things that are important now and give us a better understanding of where we are now. And we find ourselves at a time period in the Shiloh prophecy where we are expecting the Lion of the tribe of Judah to gather his people. And then the sign of the Son of Man about to start, which is going to involve tribulation events that are going to be happening while that sign is seen too as well. That matches up with the prophetic warnings of the peace and safety warnings that mean sudden destruction is coming. So we know we're on a threshold, which is also a springboard that other major prophetic events are about to happen, and they will be fulfilled. And we could see the ball rolling for them already. But we also see that we are at, right now, the days of Noah and Lot. We're at a time frame that embodies all the descriptions of the time and mentality and the world culture of how people will be living when the Son of Man comes back, before judgment comes, though. And it is amazing to see all these patterns and shadows of understanding the timing with the Son of Man, who did come the first time. We are expecting him to appear the second time to gather what he has redeemed, to pick up his purchased possession. And he said he would do that during the days of Noah and Lot, before the tribulation event started and disrupted the world mentality. And we talked about how this month of December particularly embodies all those descriptions that Christ gave. And primarily the latter part of this month. It's known for all the festivities that happen at that time, often known as Christmas. But already we find everywhere being set up the trappings and the decorations and the commemorations that lead toward that time, that point toward that time. And so much activity and focus and music and movies during this whole month are all focused around the theme of what happens during those few days there. And by understanding from a biblical perspective what is being commemorated, that also gives us an insight to the time right now and why the enemy has kept those commemorations going. Because there are certain elements that are commemorated and rehearsed for thousands of years that go back to biblical times. And why are they still being commemorated? Why are they being commemorated under different labels? Because there is a deception. There is a mystery of iniquity that is working behind the scenes. They want certain elements and themes to be promoted and commemorated. They don't care what you label it as or what you think it as long as their ways, their heathen Babylonian ways are commemorated. They don't care if you help keep it alive and if you help promote their agenda. Because them and their followers know exactly what it means. And if you're going to help promote it, then that's just more help for them. And right now we find a lot of Hollywood movies from that media entertainment pushing a lot of Christmas movies, promoting a lot of the themes of these Babylonian commemorations. And they're using Hollywood to cast a spell. And it really is psychologically a device that is causing a lot of disassociation from reality, of creating a mental fantasy world that does not exist, of some utopian Christmas fantasy world where people think everything's going to be okay for a while. And while most people recognize that most Christmases aren't like that, they still enter into the mindset and disassociate from reality to enjoy those fantasies as an escape. And that's what it is. It's a disassociation. It is a mental escape. But when you disassociate, you are opening yourself up to mental manipulation. Primarily, you are not focusing on what you should be focusing on. Your attention is being diverted. Your emotions are being diverted. Your soul, your passion, your strength, your energy, your money too. There's a lot about all of your being that is being rediverted just by Hollywood alone. You think of what is the Pied Piper that leads the charge and the march during this entire month, this whole month that really embodies the days of Noah and Lot. It's Hollywood. It's media. And they will play the same songs on the radio and play the same movies on TV and create a mental atmosphere. Whenever you go somewhere, a store during this month and time, you're going to either hear music or you're going to see some type of movie that's related to Christmas time. They're pushing this theme everywhere. There's going to be decorations everywhere out in the public to lure people into this disassociation from reality, to block out bad news, so to speak, and to get people to only focus on good fluffy stuff. They are creating a spell to take advantage of people and Christians. It does not matter if you know it. If you allow yourself to enjoy it, then you are allowing it to work in your mind. And of course, the holly goes directly with the Babylonian commemorations that go with the true meaning that is commemorated at the December 25th time, related to the Babylonian magic, related to holly and Hollywood that is used in witchcraft. And we've talked a lot about the Dolby Theater, where the Oscar Awards are handed out, which is seen as the seat in Hollywood there, and the Ishtar Gate replica, which directly points to the Hollywood sign, because this is what casts a spell over its audience, over its people. The people who watch it, the people who listen to it, they open themselves up to manipulation by Satan's devices. But it has an agenda. It's there, and it's created to propagate a certain message, the Babylonian message, the mystery of iniquity, on multiple levels, to promote certain themes, to promote certain teachings, to indoctrinate the public with terminology that will come into play later, and pictures and themes that will come into play later, to lay subconscious anchors, to get the populace ready in their minds for what they know is coming. Their Babylonian work, their Antichrist. And they are laying a lot of mental foundations to get things ready for this. We've talked a lot about how it all goes back to the Tower of Babel. And what was at the Tower of Babel? The wickedness of their heart was only evil continually. And it's all about the imagination. And so we should not be surprised that Hollywood is a whole industry built to foster imaginations and to foster wickedness of the heart and to promote it 24 hours, 7 days a week. To where the wickedness of the heart today is only evil continually. The world is primed and ready because of Hollywood. Because of the very industry that is named after the witchcraft devices that came from Babylon. And there are so many commemorations that are coming together right now that go back to biblical times that the Bible warns about. These Babylonian themes, there is a connection to the elements that are commemorated at Christmas time with the different decorations and the different elements in it, and even palm trees. Note the palm trees here in this picture too as well. But we've seen a big connection and push with palms, Palmyra, because it is a representation of victory, but it's also a representation of the phoenix, of being cut down, the tree that's cut down, but it will come back again. And this is what we hinted at with the parallel with the prophecy of Nebuchadnezzar, who was likened to a tree cut down too as well, and he came back. He came back to rulership, and this is the same pattern that is being taken for the Antichrist and used by the Antichrist, counterfeited for him. Of he is going to be like a palm tree that comes back from the ashes, like a phoenix. He's going to rise up again, their Nimrod figure. And we talked about this in our video, The Season is the Reason, but Jeremiah 10, 1-5. How God warned his people specifically about Babylonian commemorations that were going on even at their time. He said, learn not the way of the heathen. And he's warning, don't be like them. Don't copy what they're doing. No matter how festive it looks, don't learn what they're doing. If the heathen is doing it in a certain commemoration, there's a reason why they're doing it, and it's to commemorate a heathen idea. Do not do it. And he talks about the whole idea of the Christmas tree. It goes back thousands of years. It goes back to biblical times. And the whole idea is of a tree. That's what it represents. A tree, which represents a person who was cut down at one time. And it represents Nimrod. That's who it represents. The one who was cut down, but who will one day be coming back up again. And that's what they reenact by putting it in a stand. That's why they nail it up. That's why they prop it up. They cut it down first to reenact that it was cut down. But then they will prop it up to show that one day it will be propped up again. And they'll decorate it with the different elements that we talked about before. But this picture of the tree being cut down, it's very deliberate. And it has a very deliberate Babylonian message. And God says, do not mimic what they're doing. Don't learn to do it. Don't try to copy it. Don't do it at all. It's a heathen practice with a heathen message. And we find ourselves at a month now, the days of Noah and Lot. And also on the threshold when we see multiple messaging by the enemy that they expect their Nimrod figure to arise from the ashes and to come onto the scene. This mystery of iniquity work that they've been commemorating and rehearsing for thousands of years to keep the memory of their heathen Babylonian leader hero, to keep that alive, is finally coming to fruition because they know the prophetic time. And it should sober us up and wake us up to be more vigilant about what we allow into our house. We should be more sober-minded and be paying more attention of what's coming into our house when we see these two coming together, when we see the enemy activity mirroring and bringing back into public mind, reminding them and replicating the basis of a lot of this. And bringing back to the forefront in the news to keep it fresh in the mind at the same time when the other end of the spectrum, so to speak, the modern commemorations of what originated back at what they're now reenacting and replicating, they're being brought back together again. Just like two puzzle pieces. The past is meeting up with the present, prophetically, because they know what time it is. And there's a reason why these two particular days in the future are very important for the occult. Because it is part of what they are commemorating. The heathen commemorate, the Babylonian commemorations that they have. On the 21st, which this year is the winter solstice, that is when they celebrate the birth of Apollo, Apollyon, the sun god. And we've seen several messages lately over the past days and weeks and months of this is who they're getting ready for. They're getting ready for their Apollyon figure to come back onto the scene. And the winter solstice is when they commemorate it. When the sun appears to die, and this is how they're dismayed at the heavens. They get all anxious about it, but they commemorate it to their heathen practices. And that's what they commemorate on the winter solstice. And then they have 3 days later, on the 25th, that is when Nimrod, the Apollyon, the Apollo figure, is restored. That is when the pattern of the tree is set back up again. When it's restored, when the phoenix rises up again. Their Nimrod type figure, their Apollyon figure, who has been cut down in the past, they know he will rise up again prophetically. He is coming back. He's going to be unrestrained prophetically, and they know it's very soon too. And this is what they've been commemorating for thousands of years. The ways of the heathen, the ways of Babylon. This is what's commemorated every year at this time, with different names and different labels glued on top of it, but it's the same thing. And so this whole time period from what they commemorate as the birth of Apollo, Apollyon, the sun god, to the 25th when he's fully restored in their minds, that whole idea, these whole days are all about commemorating the one who was cut down. The Nimrod figure. Nimrod, who organized the Tower of Babel, which was the imaginations of the hearts were only evil continually. And he promoted this. He promoted the original anti-God. He was the original antichrist type. Because this is what he led the world in doing. And this is what's commemorated when you learn the way of the heathen and you do their commemorations. You are commemorating the one who taught the world how to rebel against God. This is why God says don't do it. And notice down in verse 5, the Bible likens this image that they rehearse to a palm tree. They are upright as the palm tree. And this is why we see the enemy using the allusion to the palm tree, to the phoenix type. And even the Bible gives a nod to that the palm is recognized as a phoenix type. Because you can cut it down and it will come back up straight again. You can cut it down and it will come back up again as a phoenix type. It will rise up from the ashes. And so this is why the enemy, why the heathen are using these pictures and patterns at this time because this is who they are expecting. They are expecting the palm to rise back up again. They are expecting Nimrod to rise back up again from the ashes. And this is what is commemorated when people have all the trappings that go with these commemorations in their house. This is what they're celebrating. That the Antichrist is going to rise back up again. And they're going to help promote those ideas, whether they know it or not. But God warns not to learn the ways of heathen. Don't copy it. Don't do it. The mystery of iniquity has been getting ready for thousands of years. Jesus even warned his disciples that it was active at their day. They've been getting ready for this time, knowing that the Phoenix will come back, knowing that the Antichrist, the Nimrod figure, who will lead the world in rebellion against God, they know he's about to come onto the scene again. We've been looking at the 1-year delay pattern, primarily in context of the bride going to the king's house, of her time for preparation and purification. We also looked at the Nebuchadnezzar, where he was given great signs and warning, and he did not quite listen to it. And so we see the biblical connection with the 1-year warning to both of these patterns, a positive pattern, but also a pattern, Nebuchadnezzar as the king of Babylon, which was started by Nimrod. We see that 1-year connection to both of these aspects of prophecy at this time, the good side and the bad side. And we had been looking at the past year on the cyclical calendar from late March 2015 to March 2016. We had looked at certain prophetic events that caught our attention a year ago. And lately we've been looking at the peace and safety coming full circle to the time where we are now. But a year ago, back in 2015, we had talked about this of how there is a cross connection. And even the Bible makes mention and illustrates how Passover is connected to atonement. Christ fulfilled the Feast of Atonement when he died on Passover. And so there is a biblical pattern for seeing how opposite sides of the cyclical calendar can mirror each other. And so that's why we look across the cyclical calendar. And this is a concept very familiar to the Hebrew mindset too as well. But we had noticed last year in early 2015, the third blood moon, which was at the time of Passover, was also lining up directly with the fourth and last blood moon. And it did so exactly. And so that caught our attention, just how it was very symmetrical and very precise with a proper biblical calendar. And we also again noticed how with the American blood moon being on the same day as the first star of Bethlehem reminder, that was also exactly symmetrical and equidistant to the two blood moons. And that definitely caught our attention, just the precision of it all. There was already a lot of talk at that time of people concerned about the blood moons. Were they a sign? And obviously it's usually a sign connected with judgment. And what the Bible's talking about with the moon being turned to blood is just from all the dust and smoke kicked up during the tribulation. So the blood moons during the tribulation are going to be taken to a whole much larger level than just a few hours duration. No, it's going to be seen for weeks at time. They're going to know for sure that they are seeing the blood moons that the Bible talks about. But the blood moons that we saw in the earlier part of the year and last year too as well, those were definite reminders, and they had some interesting timing to them, especially when we look at them from a proper biblical calendar that we've been following. They lined up differently than what people were observing with the rabbinical calendar. And this is very important. When we know the time, we will notice different things than those who follow a different time. This is why it's important to know the proper time. And this lineup, this symmetry, this precision would not be noticed on the rabbinical calendar, by the way, because they threw in some things that were not needed. They threw in an extra month when it was not needed. And so you would not have noticed this precision at all on the rabbinical calendar. But this is one of the initial things that caught our attention when we saw the first star of Bethlehem being so precise with other events that caught our attention and reminded us of celestial signs that will be seen during the tribulation too as well. And so this is very important that knowing the time, we are able to identify a very important sign in the heavens, a great sign, a great wonder that caught our attention. And we've been trying to study since that time exactly what does it mean, and we've been learning a lot about the tapestry of redemption. It's been incredible to see what the Lord has shown us. But time is so critical to understanding prophecy. But we also noticed, besides the precision of how the blood moons lined up with the Star of Bethlehem and the American blood moon too as well, we had noted at the time, and we talked about it, that it also lined up exactly with December 25th, pointing to the Nimrod tree and to that commemoration. And this was very significant because the blood moons are associated as signs of judgment, that judgment is coming on the world and associated with the tribulation time period. And so it definitely caught our attention that the signs that we were seeing with the Star of Bethlehem and the blood moons, they were pointing to positives, that the king was coming, but they were also pointing to negatives, warning that the Antichrist was coming too, and that judgment was coming. And so we knew this just a year ago, just seeing the precision of the blood moons and the Star of Bethlehem signs. We already had an idea, because of the precision with the prophetic time, of knowing that this was not accidental, this was not coincidental. We need to pay attention that it's pointing to both of these aspects. And we talked about it in one of our first major booklets, Exodus 2, The Bride Goes to the King's House, which we still have available on our Google Drive. Definitely check it out. But we talked about how the true blood moons pointed to Xmas, that the Antichrist, the Nimrod type, is also coming. The celestial signs are a warning. That's what they are. They're a warning for good and a warning for bad. The signs that point to the Antichrist are also associated with judgment. And polar opposites are coming. The Redeemer, who is signaled by the Star of Bethlehem signs. But then the same signs also have a dual meaning of pointing that the Son of Perdition is coming. As Christians, as the bride of Christ, we are expecting the Lion of the tribe of Judah, our Redeemer, who is also the Son of Man. Satan's disciples are expecting the Son of Perdition. And so when we see these precise signs, we know these celestial signs are a threefold warning. The Redeemer is coming, the Son of Perdition is coming, and judgment is coming. Once the falling away, the bride snatching, evacuation, departure occurs, then the tribulation snare will spring, the sudden destruction. The Son of Perdition will be revealed during this time. And we need to let this sink into us. This conclusion was drawn just from the precision of the celestial signs that we noted a year ago. And one of the major things we saw also with the second star, Bethlehem, is that it drew our attention to Purim. And that was one of the main things that pointed us, just like the wise men followed the first star, Bethlehems, that drew our attention to Purim, with the 1 year picture with that. But then you also had the counter sign of it, so to speak, warning that the Antichrist was coming too as well, who's also associated with a 1 year pattern. And so on multiple fronts, we see the precision of the celestial signs. We see amazing signs. We see great wonders in heaven, warning us that major events are happening, and we need to pay attention. We need to be sober. We need to be vigilant. We need to give diligence to search out the matter, to look and to watch for our Redeemer coming. And the more that we study it, the more we have a clearer idea of it. We are learning so much as we go forward. And right now, where we are today, we are already with the expectation that we are almost at the end of the 1 year mark, just with the peace and safety warnings. But we are going to find out that that is also very close to the 1 year mark for the Antichrist warning that the celestial signs warned us about. When we zoom in on the cyclical calendar from last year, which is in our Exodus 2 booklet if you still have it, or download it from the Google Drive, you'll notice in the 10th month where we are right now, last year, the point that was being pointed to, the opposite point last year, was December 25th. And note that last year on the biblical calendar, the 10th month Tevet, that happened to be the 13th and the 14th. So last year, the celestial signs with the blood moons and the Star of Bethlehem signs, the counter sign that they are pointing to was on Tevet 13th and 14th, which is the month we are in right now. And also notice that the final peace and safety warning was also at this same time too, but it was the day before that. It was on the 24th, so it was on the 12th and the 13th day of the 10th month. So keep this in mind. We are in the 10th month. And the 1 year anniversary for what the celestial signs were pointing to, what the blood moons were pointing to, what the first star of Bethlehem was even pointing to. Those events are on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of this month. And so when we look back at the timeline and we put that marker on here of the 13th and the 14th, and we already have the final peace and safety on the 1 year mark on the Hebrew calendar at the 12th and 13th, and then we look at the surrounding events which we have already noticed, of how it's really close to the Revelation 12 sign, approximately starting 40 weeks. It's right after the end of the peace and safety warnings too as well, so that automatically tells you should expect sudden destruction to be coming right at that same time too. And then we see the other messaging, the current messaging that the enemy is doing, that they expect the Nimrod tree type to come onto the scene right at this time to rise from the ashes, almost to the day. This should definitely catch our attention. The enemy knows what time it is. They know what the proper biblical prophetic time is, and it's not the rabbinical calendar. They know the celestial signs that are going on right now. They also know the prophetic importance of the peace and safety warnings, primarily because they were allowed to make them. They know sudden destruction's coming. They know out of that destruction, their Antichrist Nimrod type is going to rise up as a world leader, leading the world in rebellion against God. This is what they've been commemorating for thousands of years, and now they are so excited that it's finally about to come to pass. Do we know what time it is? Do we know what time it is? Are we paying attention to the great signs and to the mighty wonders that are being shown us as a warning that our King is coming, but that also the Antichrist is coming, and that sudden destruction is coming, and that we need to be living accordingly, that time is running out? We are in the days of Noah and Lot right now, and the Bible tells us that destruction will come in one day. Are we paying attention to the signs that are being shown us? When we look back on the cyclical calendar for last year, just with the biblical pattern of Esther, we already have the expectation that sometime in the 10th month, she's going to be taken to the king's house. And then we find the Shiloh prophecy showing we have the expectation of the gathering happening very soon too as well. And when we look back on the cyclical calendar, and we just happen to notice that last year, the New Year's was in the 10th month. December 31st and January 1st. That threshold time right there. And if you've been with us for a while, you remember what happened on those particular days. Very significant messaging that the enemy put out because they know what time it is. They know what the celestial signs were pointing to. What happened on January 1st in the 10th month, the month associated when Esther, the bride, goes to the king's house? January 1st, New Year's Day, was when PBS Masterpiece put out SHILOH, the Abominable Bride. Very interesting show, and it caught my attention. We talked about it at the time, that they made a big push about how the stage is set. The curtain rises. We are ready to begin. And it's very ominous with a lot of patterning, and it's very clear, to me particularly, that they were definitely sending a clear and strong message. They know they are ready to begin. They know the one-year pattern. And it's interesting, this show, and you could even see it in the trailer, a lot of allusions to time and cross-time. But we saw a lot of messaging about the mystery of iniquity, the pyramid, the illuminated pyramid, Lucifer, the light bearer. They definitely made a big emphasis on that too as well, going between doorways and the two pillars. And when you watch the trailer, you just see a sequence of events that they tie in with a match being lit. And in that Victorian context, they called those matches Lucifers. And there's a lot of tying with this message right on New Year's Day to Lucifer, the Prometheus figure coming onto the scene, but emphasizing the abominable bride, the bride that was rejected. And that was on New Year's Day, January 1st, and it caught our attention because the day before that was New Year's Eve, the transition from 2015 to 2016. And at the New Year's celebrations at Times Square in New York City, they had a variety of numbers that they were singing on their judgment-free zone. But the very last song that they sung before the year switched over was a performed masterpiece, a song called Masterpiece. And they finished up all the songs of the year on their judgment-free zone by singing John Lennon's Imagine. And then they ushered in the new year, and then the Abominable Bride started not too long after that. But remember the lyrics for John Lennon's Imagine. Imagine there is no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Blah, blah, blah. No religion too. And the world will live as one. This is the theme song of the Tower of Babel mentality. The imaginations of their heart were only evil continually. They want to imagine a world without God telling them no. This is the whole crux in their anthem of what they were celebrating there in their judgment-free zone. They know what time it is. They know they are about to be unrestrained. They know we are in the final prophetic hour. Things are counting down, and there is a set time when things will be fulfilled. They know the celestial warnings had already gone out. Just like Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar with the dream that he had, there was a time when he got the warning a year in advance. And he may have forgot about it or put it out of his mind or chose not to think about it. He did not take heed to the signs and warnings, the great wonders that he was given about what he was shown would be fulfilled. We are shown signs that prophetic events are going to be fulfilled, and the enemy knows they will be fulfilled. Christ is going to come to gather his people, and immediately following that, the son of perdition is going to be unrestrained, and they will be able to begin their final work. Now, in this series called Sherlock, one of the major adversaries of Sherlock is Moriarty, played by this particular actor here. And it caught my attention, and it caught the world's attention too as well, that not too long after this particular episode with this main villain in it, was released the Alice Through the Looking Glass trailer that portrayed her waking up in the insane asylum. And she's portraying the bride who wakes up, who knows the time. But she wakes up and realizes she is not home. And one of the first people she sees, though, is this exact same character in the exact same character setting as in another TV show, the Sherlock of the Abominable Bride, which happened not too long before this trailer came out. And even the world was noticing, and you could see it in social media. They're pointing out, oh, yeah, they're bringing in the Sherlock character Moriarty, and they're all happy about it. They didn't realize this was done deliberately to tie these two concepts together. They're tying the Abominable Bride concepts, patterns and shadows, to this exact same setting, but tying it to the bride who is awake, who escapes between the two pillars, which represents the doorway. She goes up a spiral staircase, a stairway to heaven, if you will. And on the rooftop, she makes an aerial escape. She falls away, and she's identified with the church. And so with these linked pieces, they are messaging that they know there is a abominable bride who is not making herself ready, but then there is also a ready bride who is awake, who will escape. And the commemoration for that on a 1-year pattern, although it's not mentioned in Scripture, but taking it in contact with the other messaging that has it right at the time of their commemorations, that they commemorate every year, and the messaging that goes with that. The ready bride, the awake bride, the wise bride, who is awake, who knows what time it is, she will cast off the works of darkness. She will cast off the works of abominations. She will cast off the works of the heathen. She will cast off the works of Babylon. And she will strive to put on the armor of light. She will put on Jesus Christ. She will not put on Antichrist. Now is the time when we need to examine what are we putting on into our life. What are we promoting in our life? What are we making shine bright in our life? What does the world see in us? What does Jesus Christ see in our life? The excuse, well, God knows my heart, that don't fly. What does the world see in your life? What is shining in your life? What does the world see shining in your life? The fruits of the Spirit, what you are doing, what you are promoting. Are you promoting the works of darkness at this time? Or are you putting on the armor of light and casting off the works of darkness? We are at a very important time prophetically, so much coming together. The enemy knows what time it is, the signs and wonders that are shown. They know what it is warning about will be fulfilled. They also know the peace and safety warnings. What it is warning about will be fulfilled. Sudden destruction is coming. Are we paying attention? Are we waking up? Are we rising up? Are we trimming our lamp? Are we shining bright? What are we doing? If we're not getting ready, if we're not shining bright, we are abominable. We are wretched. We are foolish. We are the wicked servants. We are the foolish servants. Are we striving to shine bright at this time? When we have so many warnings? We see in a couple days the rehearsal sign of the Son of Man beginning. At the latest. That is when it would start. It would start visually on that date, 16th and 17th of December. It could start slightly before that too. Most pregnancies are longer than 40 weeks. But that's going to start the sign of the Son of Man, and that's what Jesus Christ himself called it. And he told his disciples, even John, that this sign would be seen during tribulation events. And prior to that, though, the one whom the sign rehearses, the Son of Man, he's going to be coming in the days of Noah and Lot before that judgment starts. John was well familiar with what the sign of the Son of Man was. It's rehearsing when Christ came. And Jesus' own mother lived with John, so no doubt she told him the stories all the time of the wise men and the different stars as they described what they saw, of what led them to find the king. John knew full well what the sign of the Son of Man was. And he definitely knew what was being talked about in Revelation 12 of the sign of the Son of Man, what it was rehearsing, reminding the world, a warning in advance, 3.5 years in advance, that the king is going to be coming again. Get yourself ready. That's what the Revelation 12 sign is. It's a warning that he's coming again. We talk about this in the Shiloh booklet. We have this graphic in there. The Bible is very clear that there is a sequence of events that will be fulfilled, that go with the celestial signs and that line up with other prophetic signs, primarily the peace and safety warnings. These are two prophetic events that will be fulfilled, and the Bible tells us the sequence that they will be fulfilled in. And we find ourselves at a threshold where 3 of these different prophetic events are all coming together to one single threshold in the days ahead. What are we doing? Christ is coming during the days of Noah and Lot, and he repeatedly emphasized, it's the coming of the Son of Man. And when we understand who it's talking about, why does he call himself this Son of Man? Because he was born like a man. And he repeatedly emphasizes, I am coming during the days of Noah and Lot. While the world is still going on like normal, while the world is living it up primarily, we find ourselves at that time. And he asked his disciples the pointed question. It was really a rhetorical question because he already knew the answer. And the answer was seemingly obvious. When the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? Will he find people believing the celestial signs, the great wonders in heaven, the prophetic signs warning that sudden destruction's coming? Will he find anyone who's living as though that's going to be fulfilled? Will he find wise men? Will he find wise servants? Shall he find faith on the earth? Will he find his servants living wisely? Or will he find them living like the rest of the world, like Lot's wife? When we see the signs and the great wonders in heaven, let that affect how we live. Let us be sober. Let us be vigilant. Let us purify our life. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself even as he is pure. If we have the expectation to see him face to face and we see prophetic events coming together, we should be purifying ourselves and making ourselves ready. And that's why all these events that we have seen over the past year are culminating in one single message. Purify yourself. Make yourself ready. A year ago, we had our attention directed toward the time of Purim. And that's what we're looking at. And now we have come full circle, reviewing and rehearsing all the commemorations, all the patterns between then and now. We've covered them all. Now's the test. Are we going to listen? Are we going to take heed? Are we going to make ourselves ready? Joshua 24:14. Now therefore fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and in truth. And put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood, and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And Joshua said unto the people, Ye are witnesses against yourselves that ye have chosen you the Lord, to serve him. And they said, We are witnesses. Now therefore put away, said he, the strange gods which are among you, and incline your heart unto the Lord God of Israel. And the people said unto Joshua, The Lord our God will we serve, and his voice will we obey. We are at a time of decision. Who will you serve? Who will you incline your heart to? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Let us serve the Lord in sincerity and truth, listening for his voice and obeying his voice. And when we hear his cry, let us rise up. Let us trim our lamps so that we shine bright. We cast off the works of darkness and we put on the armor of light, going out to meet our bridegroom, serving Jesus Christ first and highest above all else. Maranatha.